Good morning. Good morning. I have got to get my Instagram going, guys. Hang on. Get myself sorted. All right. Good morning, everybody. I think we are on Instagram, Facebook. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. I'm happy to be here today. I had a great day celebrating Mother's Day yesterday. I hope that you guys were embracing Mother's Day of some sort, honoring mothers, celebrating mothers, being a mother, organizing everything for Mother's Day. You know, all the things. Um, so good morning. I see a few of you guys filing in. It's good to see you. Hey, Sam. Um, Today, I want to talk about creating kick-ass salons. That's what I want to talk about today, and how we can go from chaos to cohesion. So that is where my mind has been. And I think my mind has been there because as I am and have the privilege of working with so many salon owners, being a coach, um, even if you're an owner and you've been doing this for a long time, if you've been doing this for a long time, um, it doesn't mean that there's cohesion, right? It doesn't mean that there are systems for things. It doesn't, maybe you didn't start off that way. And between the clients that I've been working with and being on these owners forums that I've been on, um, I'm just seeing a lot of posts of people struggling, especially like newer owners that are just starting out on the struggle bus. I'm reading these posts, they just didn't know how hard it was to own their own business and all the different elements that it takes to run a business. Yeah, it's hard. It's freaking hard to run a business. It is. And it's not easy. And if you're not organized and you don't have the structure to create cohesion, you're going to have chaos. And that's just the way it goes. You know, I see so many coaches out there that talk about let people come in and leave when they want, and let people work in and out of your salon and wherever they want to, and let your team create this and that. I believe in letting our team help to create structures and strategies for growth, but we have to have the structures and strategies for growth. We can't just run our businesses on a wing and a prayer and then be frustrated that things aren't operating as we want them to operate. And I think it's like that even in our personal life, right? So if we don't have some level of a routine and structure in our own life, we may not then be seeing the results that we want in our own life, right? My goal is to be a healthy, agile, mobile person, and I'm not making sure that my diet and exercise aligns with what my goal is, and have consistency around that, and have a routine around that, and have structure around that, I'm probably just not going to get there because I want to get there or because I'm praying to get there. I'm going to have to get there because I'm planning to get there. And it's the same thing with our business. Um, so today I want to share like 3 key steps to get your salon back on track, or if you're a new owner, to start on track. And I have to say that, you know, before I opened my first business in on July 14th of 1992, I was so lucky. And I want to say lucky because I look back and I work with so many owners that didn't have this privilege, which was I was an educator back then, and I was doing hair on stages really across the country. And I pivoted my focus to business because I was so interested in the business side of our business. And I hooked up with so many amazing people, with the Robert Cromines of the world, with the Win Claybaugh of the world, and some just amazing leaders. And I mean, this was 35 years ago, 32 years ago. And I realized before I opened my business how much structure and guidance and a business plan that I needed before I opened my business. So when I say I was lucky enough to know that before I opened my business, because right now I see, and this happens all the time, I've seen it over my entire career, and I would have been one of those people that I thought, well, I'm a busy hairdresser. I'm really good at what I do. And so I'm just going to open a salon because I'm a really good busy hairdresser. And being a great business person and being a busy hairdresser, those two things don't necessarily happen because you want them to happen. Being a great hairdresser takes a lot of practice and a lot of repetition and skill set, right? You don't just learn a new haircut and you're brilliant at it. You learn a new haircut and it takes hours and hours of mastery in order to become great at it. And business is no different. Business takes hours and hours of mastery. It takes hours and time and years of saying, what isn't working and how can I make it better? How can I create an environment that is better than what I'm in right now? And it doesn't mean if you already have your business, it surely doesn't mean you can't get there if you don't have it, but you have to start somewhere. So today I want to talk about that starting somewhere. Where do you start if you want to strengthen your business, if you want to get somewhere that you haven't been yet, if you want to see your business doing something different? And it might feel overwhelming because you've been doing things a certain way for so long. Yes, I can see that. And you have a staff that possibly is used to doing things a certain way for a long time. How do you start to create change around that? And what I want to say to you is that, like, if you think about going on a trip and you're going to drive on a trip across the country, I mean, what you don't want is a GPS system that says, in a little while up there, I'm going to have you turn left to somewhere, like in a little while, about 5 minutes, go ahead and turn left. Or, after a couple of miles, we're going to get on a different freeway. I mean, if you had a GPS that just said that and you were trying to get across the country, do you think that you would get there? Probably not, right? Because you'd be like, well, what do you mean turn left? What do you mean what freeway should I be getting on? So if you want to see something different than what you've been seeing now and what you have now, we have to create something different. And so the first thing that I want to say before I go through these 3 steps that I want to offer you today is, if you have an existing business, which a lot of my clients have an existing business, and I would say if you are a new owner getting ready to open a salon, hire a coach and get yourself to a place where you're hiring people into our already existing protocols and practices. Not to say they're not going to change. Over 32 years of business ownership, multiple locations, over 80 employees at any given time. We've had to pivot a lot and change a lot, but we started with a structure, and if things didn't work, we were able to pivot and change direction. So what I want to say to people that have an existing business, right? If there are things that you want to see different, this is the first thing as I go through my 3 steps that I want you to write down or think about. This is going to also be your takeaway for the day. I think of my business, I've talked about this. If you guys follow me, I've talked about this for years. I think of my business in 5 different buckets. And there are systems and guidelines and structures in every single one of these buckets. So we could look at the 5 and they're in no particular order. They're all equally as important and equally critical for, and this is my opinion only, for running a sustainable, financially successful business. Leadership that is kind of the priority if you think about it. I mean, if you have the other things and no leadership, I don't know how the other things are going to run. So leadership, operations, finance, knowing your finances, knowing what equals what in your business. So we did leadership, operations, finance, education, an education program so that you're constantly growing people so that they can come onto the floor and be inside your culture. So, an education program that's also very layered. And then we have culture. So, we have leadership, operations, finance, education, and culture. Those are the 5 buckets. And I still do this in my business. And if this is something that you don't do, then I would recommend starting this. You can get a notebook, any kind of a notebook, anything that you want to use or get, and write down those 5 things. So maybe you have a different page for each one of those lanes or buckets, right? So I'm going to say it again if you want to write it down: leadership, operations, education, culture, and finance. And again, this is if you want to go from chaos to cohesion in your business, right? You want to start building systems to get you from where you are to where you want to be. And so, what I would recommend is once you have these pages written, it doesn't even need to be anything formal or fancy. It's a notebook. You write your 5 lanes or your 5 buckets in there. And as you're working in your business and you see that there are opportunities for you to do better, or for things to be a little more streamlined, or if there's a crisis that you're in the middle of that could have been averted had there been a system in place, then go under the specific title of these buckets or lanes that I gave you and write down what type of a system you might need for that area. It doesn't mean you have to do it right then and there. I just want you to have that notebook. It could be a little notebook, a big notebook. It could be formal, informal. And as you're moving through your business, if you write down some of the things that you need to start working on and launching in your company so that people are really clear on how you work, how the business is supposed to be working in order for you to get from where you are to where you want to be. That would be the starting point. So as I go through these different practices, I'm just going to throw some ideas out. If you start thinking to yourself, oh gosh, that's something I don't have, and that's something that I need to start working on, then go to your notebook and you write down underneath on that one page, under that category, okay, I need to create a system for blank, whatever that is. And, I have to also say that I am working with quite a few salons right now, as my coaching salons, that have been in business for years. And usually people will call when they're in a crisis. I prefer when people call and they're not in a crisis because we get to just get right into working on elevating. Although we usually reach out for help when we feel like we are at our most vulnerable, at our lowest, in the middle of a crisis. And so if that's where you happen to be right now, we have to fix that first. So first, it's crisis management. Let's get a handle on what is happening right here, right now. And then we can start working on building some of the strategies to eliminate and avert some of the issues that you might be having. So step one, and I've said this before because Brene Brown is like one of my heroes. And one thing that she says all the time is clear is kind. How clear can we be when people join our team around how we work and how we operate? People they're not clairvoyant. They're not going to jump into your brain and say, this is how Carrie wants her business to be run, and therefore I'm going to show up every single day and I'm going to do exactly what she is thinking about what should be asked of me. No, it's a fantasy. I hate to bring you back to reality, but your team are not clairvoyant. Clear is kind. What are the expectations that we have for our team and for our clients, to be honest? And I would also say, when you have a mission statement and you have clear core values that your company knows about, that your team knows about, once you start instituting some structures, strategies, and systems in your business and tie them to the why, and the why is because this is our mission, these are our core values, things make more sense than when they're coming out of the blue. So if you don't have a mission and core values, I'm going to recommend that you go back to one of my lives called Mission and Core Values and have a listen to that. And that would be one of the first things that I would recommend so that you know the direction you're going. That really is your GPS. That's your compass. That's how we should be making decisions in our business, is based on our core values and based on our mission statement. And so step one, like I said, is clear is kind. And what does that look like? Okay, I'm going to throw out some ideas, and if it feels like it works for you, great. If it doesn't, then maybe it'll trigger something else that might seem like it would work for you. And one thing that you can count on with me, I am not a person of absolutes. I don't say if this doesn't happen, then you're going to fail. I absolutely don't believe that. I believe that there's different ways to run your business. And there are some foundational things that I think should be in a business in order for you to have an easier life running a business. So if step one is clear is kind, then my very first step would obviously be, do you have a handbook in your business? And I know that might seem or sound elementary, or to some of you listening, it might sound like, I don't need a handbook. That's so old fashioned. What does that mean? Why would you have that? Well, I will tell you that in that handbook, you have all the things. When you go into any other industry, anywhere, when you get hired, you have an employee handbook that lays out all the policies, the late policy, the time off policy, the time off request policy, the dress code policy if there is one, the workplace violence prevention plan, the sexual harassment prevention plan. I mean, all the things in an employee handbook. If you don't have one, I want to recommend that you have one created or you create one. There are so many avenues. If you don't have one, please reach out. I can refer you to a million different resources where you can get an employee handbook. And the clearer you can be in that employee handbook, you start hiring people on with that clarity and with the expectations that you have. If you have a lot of staff and you don't have an employee handbook and you're like, well, I'm going to get one now. How's that going to go? Because they already work for me. You can launch anything to your business now because our businesses are constantly changing, you guys. It's not like, it's a one size fits all years that you're in business. It's let's get started and we grow and pivot together. And if you can't grow and change and pivot, your business is going to die off. I can honestly say I'm going on my 32nd year as a business owner, multiple business owner. I wouldn't be in business this long if I didn't practice flexibility and practice change constantly, because the world is changing. The generations change. People want different things. So we have to constantly be pivoting. So handbook, yes, I'm going to say it. Handbook, and in that handbook, job descriptions. Job descriptions are critical because a handbook is going to lay out all the practices and the policies in your company. Job description is going to say, hey, I'm hiring you into my company, and these are the expectations we have of the people that work here. That's what a job description does. And so it's not like everybody coming in making their own rules. Now, if you're in a salon, maybe a rental salon, and everybody has their own studio, that's the way that goes. But if you're in an employment-based salon where you're employing people to come in and everybody is working towards a common goal, everybody's goal needs to be lined up with the company's goal. And in addition to that, we as owners have to support the staff in their independent goals. That's our job as leaders. So on Clear is Kind, which is step one, it's a detailed handbook. If you don't have one, make sure to get one sorted. And also job descriptions under Clear is Kind, regular team meetings. I talked about this in depth last week. So if you want to hear about successful team meetings, go and listen to my live from last week where I share our amazing team meeting from this past month and how it rolled out and some different ideas about it. And if you are not signed up on Carrie Davis Consulting, go to carriedavisconsulting.com, sign up, and I send a newsletter out almost every week where I follow up on what I talked about today. And I kind of, maybe they're your notes, the notes that you haven't taken that you're going to be, that you should be taking. I'll send the newsletter to you. So detailed handbook, job descriptions, team meetings. When we talk about clear as kind, regular team meetings, I talked about this last week. We in our company, we have 8 a year, one every 6 weeks. And those vary from business to team building to, they're always communication celebrations and visual reminders. So I think that we can't underestimate that visual reminders, the memos that we have in the back, fun charts that we have in the back, all of these things create clear communication for different types of learners. Some people learn by looking and touching, and some people learn by hearing and seeing. So, all right. So step 1, clear communication. All right, guys. Step 2, empowering systems that stick and delegation of ownership. And what do I mean by delegation of ownership? My friend Wynn Claybaugh, who gave me this piece of advice when I opened my first salon in July of 1992, July 14th. And I called him probably 3 months after I opened. So July, August, September. I probably called him in October of 1992. And I was like, I don't know how to be an owner. I was 27 years old. I said, I don't even know what I'm doing. People are like sitting back at the shampoo area reading the newspaper. They're coming in late. These things were happening. And he said, well, you need to create some systems around what your team should be doing. And you'll figure it out. He said, but I want you to remember one thing. And I was like, what? And I don't remember a lot because I have a shitty memory. But he said, people support what they help to create. People support what they help to create. So if you're going to launch something new, and maybe you don't have job descriptions right now, and you're going to launch job descriptions, maybe your team can help you to launch a job description. And one of your team meetings is, when we're hiring new people, what should be on the job description for a stylist, for an assistant, for our guest relations person? What are some of the things that you guys see that can supplement what we already have on here that we need to be focusing on? People support what they help to create. So you can delegate. When we talk about step 2, delegating ownership, the other thing that I want to talk a little bit about here is, do you have different levels of leadership in your business? So what do I mean by that? Well, people in your business that are cultural ambassadors. So maybe they are, or mentors, they're mentors in the business where they are in charge of taking on the new hires and training the new hires inside your culture. Maybe they're the mentors in your business, or we've called them cultural ambassadors before. We have educators in our business. And so our educators are also a level of leadership. They come in and they're training the team, not only on culture, but on business, on technical skill sets. And so that's a layer of leadership. Maybe at your front desk, you have a lead, a guest relations lead. That's a level of leadership. When you can delegate leadership, you as an owner are not saddled with every single thing all the time. And I will tell you, people want to contribute. They do. They want to see you succeed. They want to be a part of something that feels good and feels successful. And they want to be a part of that. And people support what they help to create. If they are the creation and they help to create this, you better believe they're going to get behind it. We all feel that our ideas are the best. And if you can get a collaboration of people helping to develop systems and strategies in your business to create clear expectations, a clear path to following your mission and your core values, that's going to be super helpful for you. All right. What is my number 3? I talked about this last week. I've talked about this a million weeks. And I'm going to talk about it again. Step 3 is follow up. I myself have launched something and not followed up before, and just let it fall by the wayside. And I have to say, it sucks. It sucks for the people that have invested their time in getting on board with you when you launch something new to then see it not come into fruition. That's a bummer. And I had to learn the hard way that if I'm going to be a delegator and I'm going to be even launching something myself, I have to follow up. And what does follow up mean? There's different ways that you can follow up. If you're the one launching something and you say, I'm going to follow up with you on this date and time, you better put it in your calendar to follow up. If you're going to launch a contest of any sort, you have to follow up with daily, weekly, monthly, not only scorekeeping, but who are the winners and celebrate those winners. If you stop following up on the system, strategies, contests, whatever you are wanting to implement in your salon, if you stop following up or you are following up half the time, you're going to have a hard time getting your team getting on board to even support whatever changes that you are wanting to make. Right? So if you are launching a new practice and you see and your team sees that you're not following up on that practice, then they're going to be like, well, I'm not going to invest my time then in changing myself if I see that change is not the way the whole company's going, let alone leadership. We have to be the example. As leaders, we have to show up, set the pace, the tone, the energy, the mood, the dress code. If you're working behind the chair, you have to show up and your goals need to be the goals, the pillar that people are looking to reach. They're like, oh my God, that is my inspiration. That's who we have to show up to be. That's the job that we took. It doesn't mean when you took the job as being leader that you were going to do everything perfectly. No, we're humans. You're not going to do everything perfectly. We're going to F up. We're going to fall. We are going to have failures. It's a part of life, but it's what we do with those things and how we show up to correct those things that people look at. We're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all not going to live up to where we want to be every moment of every day. So as leaders, as people that are leading your own life and don't have a business, you get to mess up and you also get to correct the course. And if you're an owner, like I said at the very beginning, today is 3 steps to having a kick-ass salon from chaos to cohesion. If you're in the chaos area, if you're in the chaos movement right now, I promise you, if you take these steps that I talked about today, you will start moving into cohesion. I just know it because I've seen little areas, mini areas of mini chaos in my own business. And we're like, when I am sitting in that, I say to myself, what's the system for that? Do we have something when this happens that we're supposed to be doing or that we can guide people to do? And if the answer is no, then we build a system for it. And 32 years later, I still ask myself the same question. When we have a situation happen at work, I say, are we set up for this? Do we have a system for it? No, let's create one. So if you're someone that doesn't have systems, structures, and strategies in your business, start off with those 5 buckets that I talked about: leadership, operations, finance, education, and culture. Write a page down. Each category should be a page in a notebook. And as you're moving through your business, take notes on what things need to be developed and slowly take one at a time. Over 32 years, slowly, I've taken one at a time. I continue to take one at a time. When there's a movement or a change, I continue to take one at a time. So this is the long game, guys. When you choose to be owner of a business, you're choosing the long game. Imagine how many systems, strategies, and structures I've had to change over 32 years. That's a lot of time. It's a lot of change. And it's a lot of being flexible and having grace with yourself that something that you created might not be perfect and you need to go back in and like fix it. It's okay to say that too to your team. Like, oh, this wasn't perfect. I know that I have some of my staff that jumped in on here too. That Angelica, she knows, right? We work together all the time. She knows that I'll be like, I think I fucked up, but this is how we're gonna fix it, and it's okay. So, anyways, look, I hope that today helped you guys. It always helps me to come on here and throw out some ideas. And you know what it does for me? It keeps me focused on my business and keeps me focused uh, on making sure that we are being true to ourselves and our mission and our core values. So if you ever need help getting yourself on track, if you're here and you're listening to this, you surely know how to find me. I hope you guys have an amazing week. Mwah. Love you guys. Bye.